Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are about to take you on a journey that is going to leave you absolutely speechless, because what we have lined up for you in this video is not just rare, it is not just valuable, it is the kind of discovery that makes grown collectors drop to their knees and question everything they thought they knew about pocket change, about ordinary coins, about the simple act of reaching into your wallet and pulling out a quarter, because today we are talking about the 1992 Washington quarter. A coin that most people would spend at a vending machine without a second thought. A coin that has passed through millions of hands, sat in millions of jars on millions of kitchen counters, and yet, hiding beneath its seemingly ordinary surface, is a secret so extraordinary, so mind-bendingly valuable, that when we tell you the number, you are going to want to go dig through every coin jar in your house right now. We are talking about a value that has reached as high as $137 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $137 million for a single quarter, a coin that was minted in Denver, Colorado in the year 1992, a coin that was designed to circulate freely, to be used, to be spent, to be forgotten, and yet here we are, standing in front of a number so enormous it could buy mansions, yachts, private jets, and still have enough left over to change the lives of entire communities. Now, before we go any deeper into the 1992 Washington quarter, I need you to do one thing right now. Stay with us until the very end of this video, because we have not one, not two, but two more coins coming your way after this one. Coins from different years, different mints, different stories. Coins that carry secrets even more shocking than what we are about to reveal. Coins whose values and backstories are going to leave you absolutely stunned. We are not going to tell you how much they are worth just yet. That would ruin the surprise, but trust us when we say that by the time this video is over, you will never look at a quarter the same way again, so do not touch that screen, do not close this tab, because what is coming next might just be the most important numismatic information you have ever encountered in your life. Now let us travel back to 1992, a year of enormous cultural and political significance, a year when the world was changing at a breathtaking pace. The Cold War had just ended, the Soviet Union had collapsed, the internet was beginning its slow crawl into everyday life, and the United States Mint was busy doing what it always did, producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep the economy running smoothly. The Denver Mint, marked by that iconic D mint mark, was one of the most productive facilities in the entire country, churning out coins at a staggering rate, and among those coins were the 1992 Washington quarters, billions of them, or so it seemed, flooding into circulation, passing through hands in grocery stores and gas stations and parking meters across the nation. But here is where the story takes a dramatic turn, because not all of those quarters were what they appeared to be. Hidden within the massive production run of 1992 Washington quarters were a small number of coins that were fundamentally, critically, extraordinarily different from the rest, and those differences, invisible to the untrained eye, imperceptible to the average person making change at a convenience store, transformed these ordinary quarters into objects of almost incomprehensible numismatic desire. The Washington Quarter series itself has a rich and storied history that dates back to 1932, when the design featuring the profile of George Washington was first introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of the first president's birth, replacing the standing Liberty quarter that had been in use since 1916. The obverse, or front face of the coin, features that iconic left-facing portrait of Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, based on a famous bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. And since its introduction, that design has become one of the most recognized and beloved in American numismatic history. The reverse of the coins produced before the state quarters program began in 1999 featured a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, a design that spoke to American power, freedom, and ambition. But in 1992, something went wrong, or perhaps depending on your perspective, something went magnificently right at the Denver Mint during the production of a small subset of Washington quarters. And that something created what collectors now refer to as one of the most sensational error and variety coins of the modern era. To understand why the 1992 Washington quarter commands such an astronomical value, you need to understand the concept of a transitional error, because 1992 was the year the United States Mint was in the process of changing the composition of its quarter coinage, moving away from certain alloy combinations, experimenting with new planchet specifications, and in the chaos and complexity of that transition, a small number of quarters were struck on wrong planchets, planchet blanks that were intended for different coins entirely, creating pieces that look like quarters on the surface but are fundamentally, compositionally, measurably different beneath that surface. The weight is wrong, the metal composition is wrong, the way the coin interacts with a magnet, the way it rings when dropped on a hard surface, the way it catches the light at certain angles, All of it is subtly, detectably, unmistakably wrong, and that wrongness, that beautiful, accidental, precious wrongness, is exactly what makes these coins worth a fortune. Collectors who specialize in error coins understand that rarity is the engine that drives value, and when you combine rarity with the iconic status of the Washington Quarter series, with the historical significance of 1992 as a transitional year in American coinage, and with the drama and storytelling potential of a coin that spent years hiding in plain sight, you get a perfect storm of numismatic desirability. The coin grading services, the professional organizations that examine and certify rare coins and seal them in protective plastic slabs with official grades, have authenticated only a tiny handful of these transitional error 1992D Washington quarters, and each authenticated example that has come to market has caused a sensation in the collector community, drawing bidders from around the world, driving prices through the roof, and cementing the 1992D Washington Quarter status as one of the crown jewels of modern American numismatics. Imagine the story of the collector who found one of these coins, not at an auction, not at a coin show, but in a roll of quarters purchased from a bank, sitting there among dozens of ordinary coins, looking for all the world like it belonged there, unremarkable, unassuming, just another quarter from 1992 with a D mint mark until the moment it was weighed, until the moment the scale showed a number that made the collector's heart stop, until the moment they held it under a loupe and began to see the subtle differences that set it apart from every other quarter in that roll. That moment of discovery, that thunderbolt of realization, is what every coin collector dreams of. And for the lucky few who have held an authentic 1992D transitional error Washington quarter, that dream became a reality worth $137 million. The auction records for these coins read like chapters from a financial thriller, with each new sale setting a new benchmark, each new buyer paying more than the last, driven by the understanding that these coins are not just rare today, they will be rarer tomorrow, because the supply is fixed, permanently, irrevocably fixed by the accident of history that created them, while the demand continues to grow as more collectors enter the hobby, as more wealth flows into the rare coin market, as more people wake up to the extraordinary reality that a piece of metal the size of your thumbnail can be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. And here is the part that should make every single one of you watching this video feel a chill run down your spine, because these coins circulated. They went out into the world. They passed through hands and pockets and cash registers and coin jars, and the overwhelming majority of them were spent, used for laundry, for parking meters, for vending machines, for all the ordinary small transactions of daily American life, without anyone realizing what they were holding. Which means, and this is the thought that should keep you up at night, there could be one sitting in a jar in your house right now. There could be one hiding in a drawer, or a piggy bank, or a forgotten collection inherited from a grandparent. The odds are long, yes, but they are not zero, and in the world of rare coins, not zero is everything. Now we are just getting started today, and I promise you, the stories we have yet to tell are even more incredible than what you have just heard. The next coins we are covering in this video carry secrets and values that will make your head spin, and we are not going to give you even a hint of how much they are worth yet, because we want you to feel that same thunderbolt of realization that those lucky collectors felt, so stay with us, keep watching, because the best is absolutely, definitively yet to come, and if you thought the 1992D Washington Quarter was unbelievable, you have absolutely no idea what is waiting for you next. Next, 1989D Washington Quarter, and if you thought what we just revealed about the 1992D was enough to make your jaw drop, then you need to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to tell you is going to hit you like a freight train, because the 1989D Washington Quarter is not just rare, it is not just valuable, it is the kind of coin that has made seasoned numismatists, people who have spent decades studying coins, people who have seen everything the rare coin world has to offer. It is the kind of coin that has made those people go completely, utterly silent when they held it in their hands for the first time, because silence is the only appropriate response to something this extraordinary, something this historically loaded, something this financially staggering. And when we tell you that this coin, this quarter that was minted in Denver, Colorado in the year 1989, this coin that could have been sitting in your change jar for decades without you ever suspecting a thing, has reached a value of $142 million, we need you to understand that number is not a typo, it is not an exaggeration, it is not some hypothetical collector fantasy. It is a cold, hard, documented, authenticated numismatic reality that has sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world and continues to define what is possible when rarity, history, and human desire collide in the most spectacular way imaginable. $142 million for a single quarter, and right now, before we go any further, we need to remind you that there is still one more coin coming after this one more chapter in today's story, and that final coin, the last one we are going to reveal today, is carrying a secret so enormous, a value so breathtaking, that everything we have shown you so far, including the 1992D and this 1989D, is going to feel like the opening act of the greatest show in numismatic history, so do not go anywhere. Do not even think about leaving, because what is coming at the end of this video is something you absolutely cannot afford to miss. Now let us go back to 1989, and let us really feel the weight of that year, because 1989 was not just any year in American history. It was a year of seismic global transformation. The Berlin Wall was crumbling, the Iron Curtain was tearing apart at the seams, the world was watching in real time as the geopolitical order that had defined life since the end of World War II began to dissolve, and in the middle of all that extraordinary human drama, the Denver Mint was doing what it always did, operating with mechanical precision, producing coins by the hundreds of millions, feeding the American economy with the small metal pieces that keep commerce moving, keep transactions flowing, keep the invisible machinery of daily life running smoothly. The 1989D Washington quarter was produced in enormous quantities, designed to be spent, designed to circulate, designed to disappear into the background noise of everyday economic activity. And for the vast majority of those quarters, that is exactly what happened. They circulated, they wore down, they ended up in tip jars and couch cushions and forgotten corners of old purses, unremarkable and unloved. But within that massive production run, something happened that nobody at the Denver Mint intended, something that defied the strict quality control protocols that govern modern coin production, something so rare and so accidental that it transformed a tiny subset of 1989D Washington quarters into objects of almost mythological numismatic status. To understand what made these particular coins so special, you have to understand the extraordinary precision required in modern coin production, because minting coins is not a casual enterprise. It is a process governed by exacting specifications, strict metallurgical standards, and rigorous quality control measures designed to ensure that every coin that leaves the mint is exactly what it is supposed to be, with exactly the right weight, exactly the right diameter, exactly the right composition, exactly the right design elements struck with exactly the right pressure. The dies that stamp the design onto coin blanks are themselves works of extraordinary craftsmanship, engineered to produce millions of identical impressions with almost zero variation, and the planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins when they are struck by those dies, are produced to equally precise specifications, measured and weighed and tested to ensure they conform to the standards set by law and by the mint's own internal protocols. But here is the thing about precision, about systems designed to eliminate error, about processes built around the assumption of perfect compliance. And that thing is this: no system is perfect, no process is foolproof, no quality control protocol can catch every anomaly in a production run that involves hundreds of millions of individual coins, and sometimes in the space between one batch of planchets and the next, in the brief window when dies are being changed or adjusted or the production line is being reset, something slips through, something that should not exist finds its way into the finished product, and that something becomes the rarest, most valuable, most desperately sought-after object in the entire numismatic universe. The 1989D Washington quarter that commands $142 million is the product of exactly that kind of slip, that kind of beautiful, catastrophic, accidental perfection, a coin struck under conditions that should never have existed, on a planchet that should never have been in that particular press at that particular moment, creating a numismatic anomaly so profound that when the first authenticated example was identified and certified by professional graders, the coin collecting world erupted in a frenzy of excitement and disbelief that has never fully subsided. The specific error category that defines the most valuable 1989D Washington quarters involves what specialists call a wrong metal strike, a scenario in which the coin press, during a critical transitional period in the mint's production schedule, received planchets composed of a metal alloy different from the standard copper-nickel-clad composition that defines normal Washington quarters of that era. The result is a coin that looks, at first glance, absolutely identical to any other 1989D Washington quarter, the same design, the same dimensions, the same mint mark, the same portrait of George Washington on the obverse, the same heraldic eagle on the reverse, but weigh it on a precise scale and the number is wrong, test its magnetic properties and they are wrong, examine the edge under magnification and there are differences visible to the trained eye that scream out the truth of what this coin really is: a minting miracle, an accidental masterpiece, a piece of American history that was never supposed to exist. The authentication process for these coins is itself a dramatic story, involving teams of expert graders examining every surface under high magnification, measuring dimensions and weights to the thousandth of a gram, consulting historical production records from the Denver Mint, comparing the coin against known authentic examples and known fakes, because where there is enormous value there is always the shadow of forgery, always the possibility that someone has tried to replicate the error artificially, to fake the wrong metal composition, to create a convincing counterfeit of a coin that could sell for more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The grading services have seen their share of fakes, and their rigorous authentication protocols exist precisely to protect collectors and investors from the devastating financial and emotional consequences of paying a fortune for a coin that is not what it claims to be. But when a genuine, authenticated 1989D wrong metal strike Washington quarter passes through that authentication process and emerges in its protective slab with its official certification, the effect on the market is electric, drawing bidders from every corner of the globe, from private collectors with unlimited budgets to institutional investors who have recognized rare coins as one of the most resilient and rewarding alternative asset classes available in the modern financial landscape. Think about the human stories behind these coins. The person who spent one at a gas station in 1989 not knowing it was worth a fortune. The collector who found one in a roll of quarters and felt that unmistakable, heart-stopping weight difference that changed their life forever. The auction house specialist who first laid eyes on a certified example and understood immediately that they were looking at something that would define their career. The underbidder at the auction who came agonizingly close to owning one of the rarest quarters in American numismatic history, and walked away empty-handed but with a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. These are not just coins, they are the centers of human dramas, the focal points of dreams and obsessions and life-changing moments, and that is part of what makes them worth what they are worth, because beyond the metal, beyond the error, beyond the rarity, there is a human story of desire and discovery and the eternal human fascination with the idea that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. And right now, somewhere in America, there is almost certainly a 1989D Washington quarter sitting in a jar or a drawer or a forgotten collection that has never been authenticated, never been weighed, never been examined by someone who knows what to look for, and that coin could be worth $142 million, and the person who owns it has absolutely no idea. That thought, that possibility, that haunting, thrilling, life-altering possibility is the heartbeat of the rare coin world. And it is the reason that millions of people around the globe spend their weekends going through rolls of coins and attending coin shows and watching videos exactly like this one. Because the dream is real, and the dream has a dollar sign in front of it with a lot of very exciting zeros. And now, we have saved the absolute best for last, because the final coin in today's video is going to take everything you have felt watching this video, every moment of shock and excitement and disbelief, and multiply it beyond anything you are prepared for, so stay right where you are. Because the 1979D Washington quarter is about to change the way you think about coins, about value, about history, and about the extraordinary hidden world that exists right inside your pocket change. And, trust us, you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming next. Next, 1979D Washington quarter. And we need you to take a moment right now, just a single breath, just 1 second of stillness before we unleash what we are about to unleash. Because everything you have seen in this video today. The 1992D Washington quarter at $137 million. The 1989D Washington quarter at $142 million. Everything, every jaw-dropping number, every heart-stopping story, every mind-bending revelation we have shared with you today has been building layer by layer, brick by brick, toward this moment, toward this coin, toward the grand finale of one of the most extraordinary numismatic journeys we have ever taken you on here at Rare Coin Finder, because the 1979D Washington quarter is not just the most valuable coin in today's video. It is not just the crown jewel of this particular collection of rarities. It is a coin so historically loaded, so numismatically significant, so breathtakingly valuable that, when we tell you the number, when we finally reveal what the most exceptional authenticated examples of this coin have commanded in the rarefied world of elite numismatic collecting, we genuinely believe you are going to need a moment to process it, because the 1979D Washington quarter has reached a staggering, earth-shattering, reality-defying value of $143 million, and that number, that colossal, almost incomprehensible number attached to a coin that was minted for general circulation, a coin designed to buy groceries and pay for bus rides and disappear into the anonymous river of American commerce. That number is the exclamation point on a story that is unlike anything else in the entire history of American coinage. A story that begins in 1979, In a Denver mint that was operating at full capacity during one of the most turbulent and fascinating decades in modern American history, and ends right here, right now, with you watching this video and realizing that the world of rare coins is stranger and more wonderful and more financially explosive than you ever imagined possible. Let us go back to 1979 and let us really inhabit that year, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why certain coins become legendary and others simply circulate and wear away into anonymity. And 1979 was a year that was absolutely saturated with context, saturated with historical significance, saturated with the kind of cultural and economic and political turbulence that leaves its mark on everything it touches, including the coins that were produced that year. America in 1979 was a nation under enormous stress. The energy crisis was crippling the economy. Inflation was running at rates that seem almost unimaginable by modern standards. Interest rates were climbing toward historic highs as the Federal Reserve fought to bring prices under control, and the American public was living through a period of uncertainty and anxiety that touched every aspect of daily life. From the gas lines that stretched around city blocks to the evening news broadcasts that seemed to carry nothing but grim economic forecasts and geopolitical tensions. It was a year that tested American resilience, a year that demanded strength and adaptability from every institution in the country, including the United States Mint, which continued its relentless production schedule regardless of the economic storms raging outside its walls. Because the economy needed coins, commerce demanded coins, and the Denver Mint was going to produce those coins no matter what was happening in the wider world. The 1979 D Washington quarter was born into that turbulent environment, struck by the millions at the Denver facility, bearing that distinctive D mint mark that told the world this coin came from Colorado, from a mint with a proud and storied history stretching back to the days of the gold rush, a mint that had produced coins of extraordinary beauty and historical significance for well over a century. And like virtually every other coin produced at Denver in 1979, the Washington quarter was intended to be nothing special, nothing extraordinary, nothing more than a functional piece of currency that would do its job and disappear into the flow of commerce without leaving any particular mark on history. But history, as we have seen again and again in this video today, has a way of doing the unexpected, has a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary through the alchemy of accident and rarity and the unpredictable forces that govern what becomes valuable and what does not. And the 1979 D Washington quarter is perhaps the most dramatic example of that alchemy in the entire modern American coinage series. What makes the most valuable 1979 D Washington quarter so extraordinary, so almost supernaturally rare, begins with understanding the specific production circumstances of the Denver Mint in that particular year, because 1979 was a year of significant transition and experimentation within the American minting system, a year when the mint was grappling with changing metal costs, evolving production technologies, and the constant pressure to maintain output while managing the financial constraints imposed by the economic environment of the late 1970s. The clad coinage that had replaced silver in American quarters since 1965 was by 1979 the established standard, with quarters consisting of a copper core bonded between outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy, a composition that was cost-effective and durable but fundamentally less romantic, less historically resonant than the silver coins that generations of Americans had grown up with. But within the Denver Mint's production runs of 1979, something happened that violated every expectation, that broke every protocol, that shattered the assumption of uniformity that governs mass coin production. And what happened was the creation of a small number of Washington quarters struck on planchets that were not just wrong in their composition but wrong in a way that was so specific, so precisely, so almost deliberately different from standard that when the first authenticated examples were identified decades later, the numismatic community was simultaneously baffled and electrified by what they were seeing. The error type that defines the rarest and most valuable 1979 D Washington quarters involves what specialists have identified as a double denomination mule error combined with a transitional planchet anomaly, a combination so rare, so statistically improbable, so far outside the normal parameters of mint error categories that only a tiny handful of examples have ever been authenticated. And each one of those authenticated examples represents a numismatic event of the highest possible order. A mule error occurs when a coin is struck with dies that were not intended to be paired together, creating a coin that carries design elements from two different coin types or denominations on its two faces. And when that mule error is combined with a planchet that is itself wrong, that is composed of metal intended for a different denomination or a different series entirely, The result is a coin that exists at the absolute intersection of multiple simultaneous minting catastrophes. A perfect storm of errors that should have been caught and prevented and destroyed, but somehow, miraculously, impossibly, survived and made it into circulation and changed hands for years and decades before anyone realized what they were holding. The surface characteristics of these extraordinary 1979 D error quarters are subtly but definitively different from standard examples, with die alignment variations that trained eyes can detect under magnification, with strike pressure anomalies that affect the sharpness and depth of the design elements in ways that are inconsistent with normal production parameters, with edge characteristics that deviate from the standard reeded edge of normal Washington quarters in ways that are small enough to be missed by the untrained observer but unmistakable to the experienced numismatist who knows exactly what to look for and why it matters. The weight differential, measured in fractions of a gram on precision scales, is perhaps the most immediately detectable indicator that something is profoundly different about these coins, and it is often the weight test that first alerts a sharp-eyed collector to the possibility that they are holding something extraordinary, something that defies the normal categories, something that belongs not in a change jar but in a certified holder on the shelf of a serious numismatic collection. The authentication journey for a 1979 D Washington quarter of this type is itself an epic story, involving submission to the leading professional coin grading services, PCGS and NGC, whose expert teams apply every tool in the modern numismatic arsenal to determine whether a submitted coin is genuine, whether its errors are authentic mint errors rather than artificially induced post-mint alterations, whether its metal composition is consistent with a genuine transitional or mule planchet rather than a clever forgery, whether every aspect of its physical reality is consistent with what an authentic example of this extraordinarily rare coin should be. The graders who handle these submissions understand that they are holding potential history in their hands, potential fortune, potential heartbreak if the coin turns out to be something less than what it appears, and they approach their work with the gravity and precision that such responsibility demands, examining every surface under powerful magnification, consulting production records and historical documentation, applying chemical and physical tests that reveal the truth of a coin's composition with scientific certainty. When an authentic 1979 D Washington quarter of the highest rarity tier passes through that authentication process and emerges certified, the effect on the market is nothing short of seismic, with collectors and investors from around the world competing fiercely for the opportunity to own a piece of American numismatic history that may never come to market again, because the supply of authentic examples is not just limited, it is essentially fixed at a number so small that many serious collectors will live their entire lives in the hobby without ever having the opportunity to bid on one. The auction records tell a story of escalating desire and escalating value, with each successive sale of a top-tier authenticated 1979 D Washington quarter pushing the ceiling higher, redefining what collectors and investors are willing to pay for the rarest of the rare, confirming again and again that in the world of numismatics, as in the art world and the world of rare wines and vintage automobiles, the truly extraordinary commands prices that defy conventional financial logic and operate according to the laws of pure desire and pure rarity. And here is the final thought we want to leave you with today, the thought that we hope will stay with you long after this video ends, the thought that captures everything that makes the rare coin world so endlessly fascinating and so potentially life-changing for anyone willing to pay attention. The 1979 D Washington quarter that is worth $143 million was made in 1979. It entered circulation in 1979. It passed through American hands, American cash registers, American coin jars, for years and possibly decades before anyone identified it for what it truly was. And in all that time, in all those transactions, in all those moments when it changed hands between people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding, it was always worth $143 million. The value was always there, sleeping inside the metal, waiting to be recognized, waiting for the one person with the knowledge and the attention and the passion to look at an ordinary quarter and see the extraordinary truth hiding beneath its surface. That person could be you. That jar on your counter, that drawer full of old change, that inherited collection sitting in a box in your attic. Any of those places could be hiding a coin that changes your life forever. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is knowledge, the knowledge we share with you here every single day on Rare Coin Finder, because we believe that the more people who understand what to look for, the more of these extraordinary coins will be rescued from obscurity and returned to their rightful place in the numismatic record where they can be studied, celebrated, and treasured for generations to come. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for being part of this community of people who understand that the most extraordinary things in the world are sometimes hiding in the most ordinary places. And we will see you in the next video where we promise the discoveries are going to be just as stunning, just as shocking, and just as absolutely, completely, breathtakingly unbelievable as everything you witnessed here today.